Welcome. In this brief video we'll be examining some of the different types of revolutions that have occurred in history. There's considerable debate among scholars of revolution over many of these terms we're about to use, so be aware that in any given revolution there are bound to be a number of interpretations as to what type of revolution exactly is occurring at that time. From this lecture I would expect primarily that students get a general sense of some of the terms that are used, some of the discourse that's being used regarding the types of revolution, and the ways in which these archetypes are defined and described by scholars. Revolutions have occurred in a wide range of social, economic, and political settings. Moreover, the people who lead and support revolutions often have a wide variety of agendas. Many revolutions have distinct phases featuring different groups leading the revolution, while other revolutions feature simultaneous revolts by different groups that are not necessarily directly connected with each other. So let's take a look at some of the various types of socio-political revolutions that have occurred in history. An aristocratic revolution is one that's led by social elites, most or all of whom represent some type of noble class. Examples of aristocratic revolutions can be found in the first phase of the French Revolution, as depicted here with the Assembly of Notables in 1787, which we'll cover in the French Revolution section, as well as the Meiji Restoration in Japan in 1868, which is sometimes described in this fashion, although I should note that some scholars argue that in Japan it was a combination of a few social elites plus low-ranking samurai warriors who actually carried out this period of political change. Traditionally, the term bourgeois revolution was used, especially by Marxist theorists, to describe a political revolution led by non-noble but wealthy social elites who sought an increase in political power for themselves but not necessarily for the rest of the non-noble masses. Generally, this concept also focuses on clashes between the traditional nobility, who are often depicted as backward-looking, and the emergence of this non-noble, wealthy bourgeois elite class, often depicted as forward-looking. The second phase of the French Revolution, for example, especially the events revolving around the tennis court oath, has traditionally been described as a bourgeois revolution, and the English period known as the Glorious Revolution also sometimes gets classified in this way. More recently, though, historians, political scientists, and sociologists have taken issue with this term, especially considering the fact that modern capitalism was not really present in a significant way in either the French or the Glorious Revolutions. Whether or not this particular term is used, it's clear that there have been several modern revolutionary movements led, at least in part, by wealthy non-nobles who sought greater political and economic power for themselves. A proletarian revolution in classical Marxist theory is a socio-political revolution in which the working class overthrows the capitalist class as well as the state that serves as a tool of the capitalists. In general, though, this term can be applied to any worker-based revolution. The October Revolution of 1917 in the former Russian Empire is generally considered to be an example of a proletarian revolution, though there is a distinct subset of scholars who argue that this is a sort of superficial proletarian revolution at best and should instead be interpreted simply as a dictatorship by the Bolshevik Party. In some ways that's a mincing of words. The main text on this Soviet poster on this slide reads something like, "Long live the 5th anniversary of the Great Proletarian Revolution." Peasant revolutions, as the name implies, are revolutions in which peasants rise up against nobles and/or the government. The French term jacquerie is sometimes used. This term was first used to describe a peasant revolt in France in 1358 CE. The name Jacques became synonymous with peasant in France in the late Middle Ages, something akin to perhaps the way average Joe became a term in the United States to describe an everyman sort, though eventually Jacques became something of a pejorative term as well. A coup d'etat is the unexpected and typically illegal seizure of a government that is generally led by a group of leaders from the existing state who seek to overthrow the recognized government and replace it with new political leaders. Terms such as overthrow or putsch, or the simplified form coup, are sometimes used interchangeably to describe this type of revolution. The term is French in origin, and the literal translation means something like a blow against the state. Some scholars, I should point out, do not include a coup d'etat as a form of revolution, especially since coups frequently do not result in the immediate abolition of social and political structures, but rather simply substitute a new set of leaders for the old leaders who have been deposed. One of the most famous coup d'etats in recent years was the 1999 Pakistani coup, which the Pakistan army led by General Pervez Musharraf overthrew the elected Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his government. This draws to a close our brief look at various types of revolution.